Welcome to the Grit Blueprint Podcast. I'm your host, Stefanie Couch. This podcast is about branding, building, and business. It also highlights the grit that it takes to be successful in business and in life. Let's get started. Welcome to the Grit Blueprint Podcast with Stefanie Couch. I am talking about one thing that makes the biggest difference in your success over time. It's consistency. And if I had to give you one thing that made all the difference in the last 2 years of me either winning or losing in a task in my business, it has been whether or not I have continually shown up and done that thing day after day. And my word of the year for 2025 is actually going to be consistency, because I believe so strongly that it's going to make a huge impact in my business and my personal life. I want to talk about how I see building materials and construction industry companies lose out on a few things that really go back to goal setting and consistency. I've been in the building materials business 30 years with my dad's lumberyard, and then working in a Fortune 500 distribution company for 10 years, helping them scale and grow the door business. And now my husband and I have a business called Grit Blueprint, which helps building materials and construction companies scale and grow through things like marketing, innovation, and training. So we're going to dive a little deeper into this today, and I'm going to have a conversation based on some amazing topics that I've been talking to customers about the last 3 to 4 weeks. So first is goal setting. We often get caught up in New Year's resolutions, all of these things that we have going on that are new year, new you. You want to have the best 2025 you can possibly have. And I agree. I want to have an amazing 2025 and crush all of my goals. But what happens with companies is we sit down and we have these planning sessions, often in November, December. They start their budget meetings. And what really happens is we sit down and put all these goals together, all these numbers, and often the list is about 72 bullet points long. And if given the chance, you walked out of the room and said, what were the things we just wrote down on paper? Almost no one could even tell you immediately what the goals were. And if it's 3 to 4 weeks later, and then maybe 3 to 4 months later, almost none of those goals are going to be recognizable by your team. When I read the book, The 12-Week Year, which actually breaks this down into quarterly goals, there's a lot of research that goes into this book. If you set goals and you do incremental goals of 3 months at a time, so 12-week years, and you actually only work on 3 or less things in your business, it will drive more productivity in those 12 weeks, in those 90 days, than most companies or people achieve in an entire 52-week year. I have implemented this into my life and my business and have had a lot of success because of one thing: consistency. And that means that every single day I'm getting up and I'm trying to do the things that will drive me to actually complete those goals I've set for the 12-week year. So my husband and I sat down last week and we looked at January, February, and March. We talked a little bit about our big goals for 2025, and there's some things that, of course, we want to accomplish, and we know what those are, the big ticket goals that we know. However, we wanted to set out, if we did these things, this would make us succeed. So there's a few questions that I want you to really think about and write down some answers to. The first thing is working backwards. So Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's business partner, he was an amazing, brilliant person. He always talked about actually setting a goal and working backwards to figure out how to actually accomplish it. And I think there's a lot that goes into this. We often start to say, well, hey, we want to hit, 10% more in our revenue goal, or we want to increase sales by 20%. We want to decrease operational problems that we're having by this amount. We want to make sure we can build this much more or ship this much more per day. And all of those goals are fine. But often we have so many of those different things that they can actually work against each other. And often teams are working on so many different things that nothing gets accomplished. So figure out what your number 1 or 2 goal is for this quarter. And then I want you to figure out what you would have to do weekly and what would have to be true every single day for you to accomplish that goal. So I'm going to use weight loss as a easy, simple thing, because everyone understands that. If you wanted to say that by March 31st, you're going to lose 20 pounds, and that is your goal for the Q1 goal. You might have to say, I'm going to go to the gym 5 times a week. I'm going to do 30 minutes on the cardio. I'm going to do 30 minutes of weights, or I'm going to eat this many grams of protein. I'm going to take this many vitamins every day. I'm going to make sure that I'm not eating too much salt. I'm going to drink this much water. I'm going to weigh myself every single day. All of these little incremental things that go into accomplishing that goal. And so I listened to a podcast, one of my favorite mentors, Alex Hormozy, last week, and it really hit me. He was talking about something that has really changed a lot of his goal setting. You add that 12-week year thing in, and then you start to assign a who, a what, and a when. Because we often take way longer than we need to actually accomplish things. So we spend a lot of time talking about it, procrastinating it, or options that people see in big companies is other people are doing that. And so there's no real assignment, there's no real deadline, and it gets confusing of who's supposed to be doing what. So if you sit down in your quarterly planning and you say, here's our 3 big goals for this quarter, here is who is going to be doing each task in that, here's what they're going to be doing, and here is when we want it done by. And you're breaking that down into weekly and daily goals. I have seen this be exponentially more productive than a lot of the traditional goal setting that we have in my own life and in the customers and companies that we are working with at Grit Blueprint. So I challenge you this January, as we start this new year, to sit down and do that with you and your team. And for yourself personally, I actually like to have a few business goals and a few personal goals mixed into those so that there's things that I'm driving towards in both areas of my life. But just know you cannot do everything all at once. And you're likely not going to build a huge business, change something enormous in your personal life, be the most fit you've ever been, and also, be the best parent you could be all at one time. Choose 1 or 2 things in a few areas of your life that you think you really want to hit, and then those are going to continue to compound over the year. And if you did this with 2 or 3 goals in Q1 and then repeated it for 3 quarters after that, the year of 2025 could actually be the most exponentially big growth year you've ever had. And that is my plan for myself and Grit Blueprint, and hopefully all of our customers in the year of 2025 as well. So I hope that you will take some time to go over what your quarterly plan is and how that rolls into your goals, and really mark down what your daily time blocks need to look like. Because if you show up every single day and you did lead gen for 2 hours in the morning, I guarantee you, if you consistently did that for 90 days, you would have business that you didn't have at the beginning of the quarter. Maybe there's a specific focus for that business. Maybe you want to go after custom home builders, or maybe you want to sell more of a certain product category. Figure out how you and your team can actually go out and implement that, and think of ways that maybe you haven't done before. For instance, maybe you've never really tried LinkedIn as an option to outreach to people, or maybe you haven't done any kind of, going out and talking to people and doing PKs for a while because you just haven't seen the need to do that. You've been just going out and seeing people and saying, hey, how you doing? Do you need anything? Maybe you're not doing active yard walks when you're going out to see your customers, or you're not calling these contractors and asking them how you can solve problems for them in your business in the next quarter. Be thinking of things that you maybe either haven't been doing consistently or haven't ever done, and try to think of ways that you can get business that maybe are new and also that your competition are not doing. And if you're wondering if you should be focused on your competition, the answer is not really, because there's so much that you can do to personally improve that you often don't even need to be worried about others and what they're doing or what they're not doing. If you just start to ask your customers how you can do better, or what they would like to see from you, or how you can solve their problems, the answer is going to actually reveal itself pretty easily. So don't forget to talk to your customers when you're setting these goals, because you want to make sure that the things you're improving on are actually things that drive your business forward and help your customers by providing great value to them. So consistency is my word of the year, and I hope that you will follow my lead in showing up and consistently doing the things that you need to do to hit all of the goals that you set for Q1. Have a great January, and let's go conquer 2025. Thank you for joining me on the Grit Blueprint podcast. If today's episode fires you up and inspires you, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to level up. But here's the real question. Are you ready to take bold action and build something extraordinary? At Grit Blueprint, we don't just create strategies, we actually create results. Whether it's building your personal brand, optimizing your marketing and strategy in your building business, or scaling, we're here to make sure you dominate the industry and leave a legacy. Don't wait. Visit gritblueprint.com to book a consultation and start making your moves today. Remember, success doesn't just happen by chance, it happens by grit. Keep building, and I'll see you next time on the Grit Blueprint podcast.